What happens when a late-night king, armed with a smirk and a microphone, picks a fight with a congresswoman who's built her career on never backing down? At a glittering charity gala in Washington, D.C., the air was thick with wealth and influence. But the real storm brewed on a stage where Stephen Colbert and Jasmine Crockett were about to collide. The event, meant to raise funds for veterans, had drawn a crowd of power brokers, all sipping champagne and expecting a night of polite banter. Colbert, the celebrated host known for his razor-sharp wit, sat on a panel discussing national issues, his grin wide as he tossed out quips to charm the room. Across from him was Crockett, the Texas congresswoman whose fierce advocacy for healthcare reform had made her a rising star, her gaze steady and unyielding. The trouble started when the moderator asked about healthcare policy. Colbert, sensing a chance to play to the crowd, leaned into his microphone with a theatrical sigh. "Look, I get it. Congresswoman Crockett's passionate about fixing healthcare. But isn't it a bit naive to think you can just snap your fingers and make it fair? Sounds like a nice dream, but dreams don't pay hospital bills." The room chuckled, but the laughter was uneasy, eyes darting to Crockett. Her face didn't flinch, but her fingers tightened around her water glass. She leaned forward, her voice low but slicing through the noise like a blade. "Funny, Stephen, I didn't realize your job was to mock people trying to keep folks alive while you're busy chasing ratings." The crowd gasped, the tension spiking like a live wire. Colbert's smile faltered, but he wasn't one to retreat. He leaned back, crossing his arms, and fired back. "Oh, come on, Jasmine. Don't get all high and mighty. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Your big plans sound great on paper, but they don't survive the real world." His tone dripped with condescension, each word a jab meant to sting. Crockett's eyes narrowed, and she shot back, "The real world? You wouldn't know it if it bit you. You sit in your fancy studio, making jokes about people's struggles, while I'm fighting for folks who can't afford their medicine. Keep laughing, Stephen. It's all you're good for." The room fell silent, the kind of quiet that chokes. You. The elite audience, used to polished pleasantries, shifted uncomfortably as the two traded barbs. Colbert's face reddened, his usual charm crumbling under Crockett's unrelenting glare. He tried to pivot, tossing out another quip. "Well, at least my jokes don't promise miracles I can't deliver." But Crockett was ready, her voice rising with controlled fury. "Miracles? I'm not promising miracles. I'm demanding what's right. You want to talk delivery? Deliver some respect before you open your mouth about my work." The moderator, sweating, tried to steer the conversation, but it was too late. The gala's live stream was blowing up, viewers glued to the spectacle of Colbert, the untouchable satirist, getting schooled by Crockett's raw conviction. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Had Colbert gone too far? Was Crockett about to dismantle him? The stage was set for a showdown that neither could walk away from, and the night was far from over. As Crockett leaned back, her stare locked on Colbert. The room held its breath, waiting for the next blow. The gala's grand hall buzzed with nervous energy, the crowd still reeling from the fiery exchange on stage. Stephen Colbert, his jaw tight, tried to steer the panel toward tax policy, tossing out a weak joke about accountants to lighten the mood. But his voice betrayed him, clipped and sharp, as if Crockett's words had lodged under his skin. Jasmine Crockett sat across from him, her posture rigid, her eyes like daggers, refusing to let him off the hook. The moderator, desperate to keep things civil, called for a 10-minute break, and the panelists dispersed. Colbert stormed off stage, his polished charm replaced by a scowl, while Crockett moved with deliberate calm, her heels clicking against the marble floor. In a narrow corridor, backstage, lined with velvet curtains and flickering sconces, the two collided again. Alone, Colbert, loosening his tie, spotted Crockett adjusting her earrings near a water cooler. He couldn't resist. "Nice performance out there, Congresswoman," he said, his voice thick with sarcasm. "What's next? A campaign ad about how you Owned the funny man? Bet that'll win you votes. His smirk was meant to wound, but Crockett turned, her gaze cold and unflinching. You think this is about votes? She snapped. I'm out there fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. You? You're just a clown in a suit, mocking what you don't understand. Colbert's face flushed, his hands balling, into fists. Oh, spare me the saint act, he shot back. You're playing to the cameras just like the rest of us. Small-town bravado doesn't make you a hero, it makes you loud. His words echoed in the tight space, but Crockett didn't flinch. She stepped closer, her voice low and venomous. Loud? You're the one shouting into a microphone every night, hiding behind scripted jokes. You've got no skin in the game, Stephen. You're all talk, no spine. Her words hit like a slap, and for a moment Colbert's confidence wavered, his eyes flickering with doubt. The argument grew louder, their voices bouncing off the walls. A gala staffer peeked around the corner, wide-eyed, but didn't dare interrupt. Colbert leaned in, his finger jabbing the air. You think you're untouchable because you've got a title? I've been tearing down egos bigger than yours for years. Crockett laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Egos? Look in the mirror. You're so busy playing court jester. You forgot what it means to stand for something. Keep swinging, Stephen. You're punching air. Her words were precise, each one landing harder than the last, exposing the cracks in his polished persona. The corridor felt smaller, the air heavy with their mutual disdain. Colbert's usual quick wit faltered. He was used to controlling the narrative, but Crockett was relentless, her conviction a wall he couldn't breach. She turned to leave, her parting shot delivered with icy precision. You picked the wrong fight, and you're about to find out why. As her footsteps faded, Colbert stood frozen, his anger boiling but mixed with a gnawing unease. Outside, the gala crowd was abuzz, phones lighting up as the live stream's viewership surged. Clips of their earlier clash were already spreading, and whispers of this backstage blow-up were starting to leak. Colbert straightened his jacket, but his hands shook slightly. He'd underestimated Crockett, and the night was spiraling out of his control. The gala's main hall pulsed with anticipation as the panelists returned to their seats, the chandeliers casting a stark glow over the stage. The crowd, whispering about the rumored backstage clash, leaned forward, their eyes darting between Stephen Colbert and Jasmine Crockett. The air crackled with unspoken hostility, the earlier exchange still fresh in everyone's minds. Colbert adjusted his glasses, forcing a grin that didn't reach his eyes, while Crockett sat tall, her expression a mask of controlled fury. The moderator, voice shaky, tried to pivot to education reform, but the room cared only about the brewing war. Colbert seized the moment, his tone slick but edged with venom. You know, education's tough, he said, glancing at Crockett. Takes more than passion to fix it. Some folks think shouting ideals is enough, but that's just noise, not progress. The jab was clear and the audience shifted, sensing blood. His words aimed to paint Crockett as an overzealous dreamer, but the quip landed flat, his usual charm strained. Crockett's lips tightened, but she waited, letting him dig deeper. He pressed on, his voice sharper. I mean, come on, Congresswoman. You can't just will problems away with a speech. The real world's messier than that. Crockett leaned into her microphone, her voice steady but laced with steel. You want to talk messy, Stephen? Let's talk about you sitting pretty in your studio, turning people's struggles into punchlines. I'm out here fighting for kids who can't afford books, while you're mocking their reality for applause. The crowd murmured, some nodding, her words striking a chord. Colbert's smile twitched, but he doubled down, his tone biting. Oh, please don't lecture me about reality. Your inflexible crusades don't solve problems, they just make good TV. The room tensed, the insult hanging heavy. Crockett's eyes flashed, but she didn't shout. Instead, she leaned forward, her voice cutting through the silence. Inflexible? I'm fighting for families who can't pay doctor bills, for communities you'll never step foot in. You call that TV? I call it survival. You're the one performing. Stephen, cashing checks on other people's pain. Her words were a scalpel, precise and devastating, and the audience erupted in applause, the sound swelling like a wave. Even the moderator froze, caught in the intensity. Colbert's face reddened, his hands gripping the table. He tried to laugh it off, but the sound was hollow. "You're good at speeches, I'll give you that," he muttered. But the crowd wasn't his anymore. Whispers spread. People admired Crockett's fire, her refusal to bend. The live stream's chat exploded, viewers typing furiously. "She's schooling him!" And Colbert's done. The moderator stammered, trying to move on, but the damage was done. Crockett sat back, her gaze locked on Colbert, who looked smaller under the spotlight, his confidence unraveling. For the first time, he seemed to realize the room was slipping away, and with it, his carefully crafted image. The panel ended with a strained applause. The gala's energy now a live wire as guests milled about, their conversations dominated by the clash between Stephen Colbert and Jasmine Crockett. Colbert slipped away to a private corner near the bar, his tie loosened, sweat beading on his forehead. A handful of advisors and media allies hovered, whispering strategies to salvage his image. "You need to address this now," one urged, glancing at the crowd still buzzing about Crockett's takedown. Colbert nodded, his jaw tight, determined to reclaim the narrative. He'd built a career on charm and quick recoveries. This was just a hiccup, he told himself. But the sting of Crockett's words lingered, and the live stream's soaring viewership gnawed at him. As the gala neared its close, Colbert seized the stage for the evening's final remarks, the spotlight harsh against his forced smile. The crowd quieted, curious but skeptical. "Folks, I got a bit heated earlier," he began, his tone light but strained. "Sometimes passion gets the better of us, right? I respect the congresswoman's fire, even if her style's a tad aggressive." He paused for laughs, but the room stayed quiet, a few coughs punctuating the silence. His attempt at humility felt hollow, the subtle jab at Crockett landing like a misfired arrow. He pressed on, his voice tightening. "Look, I'm here to support veterans, not to play the villain. Let's focus on what matters." But the crowd's eyes drifted to Crockett, standing near the stage, her arms crossed, her presence magnetic. Colbert's composure cracked, his words turning defensive. "If anyone's making this a spectacle, it's not me," he said, his gaze flicking toward Crockett. "Some folks know how to turn a debate into a campaign stunt." The accusation hung heavy, and the audience shifted, unimpressed. From the sidelines, Crockett stepped forward, uninvited, her heels echoing as she took the microphone from a stunned staffer. "A stunt," she said, her voice clear and commanding. "I'm not here for headlines, Stephen. I'm here for the people who don't have your platform, who don't get to laugh off their struggles. You want to talk focus? Focus on why you're so quick to tear down those fighting for change." The room erupted in cheers, the sound swelling like a tide. Crockett's words carried the weight of her conviction, each one landing with precision. She didn't raise her voice, but her intensity silenced doubters. Her gaze locked on Colbert, who stood frozen, his hands clenched. "You mocked my work, my fight," she continued. "But I'm not here for your applause. I'm here for the folks who need a voice. You should try listening to them sometime." The crowd roared again, some standing, their admiration palpable. The live stream's chat lit up, comments flooding. "She's unstoppable," and "Colbert's finished." Colbert's face paled, his usual wit nowhere to be found. He muttered a weak, "Thank you all," and left the stage, his shoulders slumped, the spotlight no longer his friend. Crockett remained, her presence filling the room as guests surged toward her, drawn to her strength. The gala's purpose, veterans' support, felt renewed in her words, while Colbert's misstep was now a national story, trending across screens. He'd gambled and lost, and the weight of his regret was just beginning to settle. The gala's grand hall began to empty, but the energy lingered, charged with the night's drama. Jasmine Crockett stood near the exit, surrounded by a knot of supporters and journalists, her presence a beacon in the fading glow of the chandeliers. Her voice, steady and clear, carried over the murmurs as she spoke about her fight for better health care and veterans' support. "This isn't about me," she said, her words simple but powerful. "It's about the people who need someone to stand up for them." The crowd nodded, some wiping tears, drawn to her unyielding sincerity. Reporters scribbled notes, their cameras capturing her quiet strength, while the live stream's viewership soared, comments praising her as a voice for the voiceless. Across the room, in a dimly lit lounge area, Stephen Colbert sat alone on a plush couch, his glass of water untouched. The chatter of departing guests reached him, their words stinging. Crockett owned him. "She's the real deal." His advisors huddled nearby, urging a public apology to quell the growing backlash. "You need to get ahead of this, Stephen," one whispered. "It's trending everywhere." But Colbert's face was a mask of frustration, his mind replaying the night, his jabs, her comebacks, the crowd turning against him. He'd underestimated Crockett, thinking his wit could outshine her resolve, and now his reputation bore the scars. He rose, his steps heavy, and approached Crockett as she gathered her coat near the coat room. The remaining guests hushed, sensing another moment. "Jasmine," he said, his voice low, stripped of its usual polish. "I was out of line tonight. I didn't mean to diminish your work. I'm sorry." His eyes met hers, searching for a lifeline, but Crockett's gaze was steady, unflinching. She nodded, her tone cool but professional. "I hear you, Stephen. But apologies don't fix things, actions do. If you care about the issues you mocked, show it. Words are cheap." Her response was firm, not cruel, but it cut through his defenses, leaving no room for deflection. The onlookers murmured, impressed by her grace under pressure, their respect for her solidifying. A few clapped softly, the sound growing as others joined, a wave of admiration washing over the room. Crockett offered a small smile, then turned to leave, her head high. The crowd parted for her, their applause swelling into a roar that echoed through the hall. She stepped out into the cool night, her silhouette strong against the flashing cameras, her reputation not just intact but elevated. A fighter who'd faced a giant and won. Colbert watched her go, his shoulders slumping as he slipped out a side door unnoticed. The weight of his mistake settled over him, a bitter lesson in underestimating an opponent whose strength came not from fame, but from purpose. The live stream's final moments captured Crockett's departure, comments flooding with praise. "She's a legend. Colbert learned the hard way." The gala ended, but the story of Crockett's triumph spread, a testament to standing firm against the odds. For Colbert, the night was a reckoning, a reminder that wit alone couldn't outshine truth.